Hi everyone. So we'll be discussing Chinese New Year, Year of the Ox with Dr. JinPeh. He's an author, trainer, and specialist in feng shui and Chinese astrology, and currently he's based in United Arab Emirates. All right. For more information about his services, you may also contact him at his own website. It's jinpeh.com. It's JINPEH.com. So, okay, Dr. Jin, welcome.
Yes, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Oh, it's actually a pleasure. But oh, Sophia, yeah. Um, so people are actually asking and very anxious about what's in store for this year compared to the year of the rat, which is really tumultuous and very chaotic. So, what's in store for all of us this year of the ox, metal
Well,
ox?
I mean, the Chinese have 12 animal signs. So, they start from the rat. So last year was the beginning of the cycle because, every time we finish with the pig and then we start with the rat. So that's a cycle of 12 animals. And
Mm,
so the ox is the second animal in the cycle, and then it will be followed by the tiger in 2022. So the
mm,
short part to answer the question would be think back to the last ox year, 2009. So 2008 was the last red year prior to 2020, and then the
mm,
previous ox year was 2009. So from an
mm,
astrology point of view, if 2009 was a good year for you, then it looks like from you personally, because everybody's personal experience is different, then it looks like the year of the ox 2021 would not be so scary for you. Because if you actually take stock of your life, and you
mm.
will see that certain animal years have been good for you and certain animal years have been bad for you. And this is dependent on your Chinese astrology chart.
Okay. So, what are the like good businesses or good line of, let's say for example that someone wants to start a business. Does it have to be in the line of metal industry or water industry?
Oh, right. So what's happening from an element point of view, because 2009 was the year of the earth ox, and now this is the year of the metal ox. So
Mm,
with regard to there are five elements in Chinese astrology. So it
mm,
starts from there's wood, there's water, there's fire, metal, and then earth. So this is the metal ox here. So which means that the metal energy is very prevalent. So for people who are using metal as a useful element, then it will be
mm,
a good year for them. What sort of industries will do well this year? Actually, without looking at Chinese astrology, I would say that medicine will do very well this year, obviously. And
mm,
uh, I would say that obviously, unfortunately, tourism and hospitality will not do well this year. And this is just taking into account what's happening right now. But
mm,
looking at metal-related industries, so finance might rebound because finance is obviously associated with metal. And
mm,
also law might be quite busy because that is also a metal-related industry. And
mm,
also um, law enforcement, that's also a metal industry. So those are the metal industries that will probably be quite occupied this year, correct? Apart from the obvious one like medicine and public health, and obviously for tourism and travel to rebound in 2021, I think that's a little bit too optimistic.
mm. Okay, so, huh. All right. So, what about the Bitcoin? I mean, a lot of people have invested and tried to, like put their money in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, or,
Sure.
stocks, investments, and whatever. Do you think that will go up this year, or do they have to hold back for a little bit?
I think the problem is I just saw an article, and you can Google it, on Australia this morning and on
Mm,
Australian news this morning. And basically, a 24-year-old Australian is being charged with financial crimes because he operated a cryptic trading website and he cheated a
mm,
lot of investors, especially from the United States.
mm.
So my advice is with regard to cryptocurrency, I think it's still better to be conservative, especially in these very uncertain times.
All right. Cryptocurrency. So they need to hold back for a little bit and do not just go all the way in just because that it's metal year and everything is just rising up. I mean, what about the Forex?
Once again, it will also depend on the person's luck. But from my financial clients who are working in the financial industry, and
Mm-hmm.
from what they've told me, for example, I have clients in Singapore and in Hong Kong, and they're all telling me that the stock markets there actually are doing very well. I suppose in times of lockdown, when people can't channel their energy and money into traveling and leisure, they are
Mm-hmm.
focusing it on trading, day trading. So yes, I would say that this is what we've been observing, and people are really channeling their efforts and energy into trading. And if your luck is on your side, or you have good fortune on your side this year, then for sure you will benefit. I would suggest that something in trading in something which is established and which has sort of regulations which are extremely clear, like as for
Mm-hmm.
example, the stock market is a lot more stable than trading in cryptocurrency, as seen by that case in Australia where that guy will be prosecuted, and he's only 24 years old, and I think he actually took 90 million, and
Oh, wow.
he's looking to 20 years in prison.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, okay. So for those who's a little bit confused about how feng shui works, which is I've mentioned this to you before, like people all usually have this impression that I have to buy all this Buddha or frog or a very expensive feng shui stuff just to, bring abundance in my home. So what's the difference of, that kind of feng shui to, like finding the right directions and colors and everything? And also what's the lucky color for this year?
Well, I think the lucky colors depend on, it's different from person to person. It's not just for the year, it depends on the person's astrology chart. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, obviously, this color works for me, that's why I'm wearing it. And so you can't exactly say that, red is good for everyone, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no such thing as a lucky color for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And when regards to feng shui, if somebody's trying to tell you that if you buy a certain statue for them that has been activated, then they will do well in life, etc., etc. That's not necessarily true, because the feng shui consultant should be separate from the person. Oh, we can hear the prayer call now, so we can hear I'm in the Middle East. So
Mm-hmm.
that the person who is selling you the item should not be the person who's also giving you the consult, because then there will be a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
And and if it boils down to the level, if as a feng shui master has told me in the past, if human beings have found out the secret to long life or the secret to wealth, you think there'll be any people who are unhealthy, or pass away early, or people who are poor? Of course there
Mm-hmm.
won't be. We have figured out the secret to it. So I would say, asking you to buy an item from me and promising you wealth or prosperity from the purchase and display of that item is not necessarily classical feng shui. No.
Mm-hmm. So, what is a classical feng shui?
Well, basically, classical feng shui is looking at the structure of a building. So,
Mm-hmm.
and also the history of the building. So, if,
Mm-hmm.
if, if it's a brand new building, you want something which is regular in shape. You don't want it to be next to any potentially damaging energies. You don't want it to be next to, for example, a prison or a police station. You don't want it
Mm-hmm.
next to a rubbish facility. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be living in a place that was previously a cemetery. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be, and then if you're moving into an apartment or into a house, you need to know the previous history. So you don't want to be living in a place where, for example, the people divorced, or there was a death in the house, or the person who was in there foreclosed, their financial issues. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what feng shui is. I mean, it's measuring the energy of the environment. And for example, if somebody had foreclosed on a property and you buy it, the chances of you being foreclosed on that property is not is above average. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, how will they be attracting abundance this year in their homes, in their office, or
Well, there is
personally?
a wealth sector which is located in the West this year. You can find from online sources and all that. But of course,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just. It's not as simple as just putting a water fountain in the West, because you need a feng shui master or consultant has to take into account what is located in the West and whether that place is suitable for you to put a water fountain to stimulate the wealth energy. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how feng shui works, because We have to take a compass reading of the place, find out when it was built, then
Mm-hmm.
devise a chart according to that. And then that's one sector, which is called the, I suppose they call it, I suppose, directional compass feng shui. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other school, the other thing that you need to combine it with is to look at the structure. Because theoretically, you could be sleeping with your head pointing to your best direction, but if there's a toilet right behind your head, what's the point? It's negated
Yeah.
everything. So when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
feng shui, what is more important is what you can visible to the naked eye, as opposed to what that is not visible to the naked eye.
Mm-hmm. So, what is the lucky and unlucky directions this year?
Well, there are certain sectors. I said the west is lucky and the northeast is lucky, but as to whether the directions are suitable to you, it has to be according to your chart as well.
Mm-hmm. So how will they calculate or find the direction or their birth chart or whatsoever?
Well, I mean, to get your birth chart, there are now calculators online. So my Russian organizer, I can recommend her website, of course. It's bazi.today, Bazi or Bazi
Mm-hmm.
dot Today today. So
Bazi.
Bazi means the 8 characters of birth. So the
Mm-hmm.
Chinese have sort of, they will describe the hour, the the day, the month, and the year using 2 characters. One is an element and one is an animal. And then from there,
Mm-hmm.
we can do a blueprint of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
the experienced party consultant will be able to tell you a lot of information from your own personal chart.
Okay. So, can they just use the compass from their phone, or do they have to get a like a Chinese compass, which is called Lufan, or
You
can they
can
just use
you can
like a
definitely
camping compass?
Yeah, you can use the compass from your phone, but you definitely need somebody who has been trained and and is experienced to tell you about the directions and also the sectors within your house. I mean, the layperson might figure out the direction from the compass, but to visualize it and divide the house into 9 sectors, including the center, and to find out which is your relevant sector, it takes experience and some sort of experience and knowledge to visualize that. And a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
clients, and some of them even have a difficulty, and they're Chinese. They have the
Mm-hmm.
difficulty of figuring out the difference between location and direction.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So, okay, some people are confused about this, the facing of the house versus the front of the house. So the facing of the house is where the main door is facing, right?
Well, it depends because I mean, a lot of feng shui masters always discuss this, and it's it depends on the layout of the house. I mean, traditionally in the old days, if you are, the walls behind me and the front doors in front, that's a
Mm-hmm.
classical way of doing it. But nowadays with modern designs, you have something perched on a hill, you have something facing the river, but it's only the window facing the river, and then you have the
Mm-hmm.
front door to the side and all that. So I suppose to keep it simple and to keep it sort of direct and relevant, you can say that wherever the most yang energy enters the place, that's the facing direction. It more often than not is the front door, but it might not necessarily be the front door. So it will have to depend on the design and function of your individual house.
Okay. So, okay, so what are the lucky and unlucky signs just briefly this year?
Well, it's hard to define something because based on the year. Because if you think back to primary school or elementary school, you can't say that everybody in your year had a good year or everybody in your year had a bad year, right? So it's actually more relevant to be based on your day and
Mm-hmm.
also on your month. Well, month, it's like using the Western astrology signs. So what I can safely say to my students, uh, but I'm using some technical knowledge here that if you're born on the day, and you can do that by using the calendar on Today. If you're born on the day of the ox, the day of the snake, the day of the rooster, or the day of the rat, then your chances of finding romance in 2021, the year of the ox, will be high. That I can say with certainty. But you need to go and look up your chart.
Okay. So finding love. What about for those who's been like very conscious about finances and job, and because a lot of people have lost their finances and everything last year.
That's true.
Mm.
But
But
who knows, maybe together when you find a partner, the two of you will pull together and lift you through this difficult period.
yeah, that's also another thing. Because let's say, for example, that, let's say, for example, your couple, which will be which one should have the reigning direction, or which one should have the dominant direction in the house? Let's say for your
Well,
couples,
I think push comes to shove is the breadwinner, isn't it? You know,
which one
that's
is
the
the
most
breadwinner? So what
exactly.
about so what
It
about
doesn't.
the other one?
Well, the other one, we can find a sector which is good for the other one. Let's say the kitchen. No, I'm kidding. We can say the sector which is good for the other one. Let's say the study or the home office. So it depends. I mean, that's how you look at it. So you got to tailor it according to the couple, and it's not limited by gender roles, of course, because you can have men staying at home and women working as well.
So let's say, for example, that the woman is the breadwinner and the guy is the one who is,
Providing support, home support.
the home support. Don't you think that that will be sparking more insecurities between the two?
Well, it depends, right? I have some friends around the world who are living in countries whereby it is not an issue for people to adopt traditional gender roles.
Okay.
It's all up
So
to the individual, isn't it? So, I mean, it's very not very, I would say, not very polite or liberal or acceptable to say that that the man is always the breadwinner and the woman should be the home support. And I don't think that's something that's relevant to
I
today
know
now.
it's stereotypical, but
It's stereotypical, but we are changing this new world, right? So this is
yeah, most.
2020. It's 2021 actually. It's not even 2020 anymore. This is
Mm,
2021. So
mhm.
most traditional gender stereotypes are heading out the door.
So, okay. So for the rest of the signs, let's say, for example, that they are not. What about for the horse, goat? I think goat. They said that they will have it like a large impact this year.
Yeah, I mean the general way of looking at it is, because the very superficial way of looking at Chinese astrology is that people who are born in the year of the sheep, which is or the goat, depending on what terminology you use,
Hmm.
will have a bad year in the year of the ox, and because of the clash. And it's a very superficial way of looking at it. So I think the best way for a person who's listening to this broadcast to look at it is to think back to the previous years of the ox. So, for
Hmm.
example, for me, um, the relevant years of the ox would be like 2009, 1997, the year Princess Diana died,
Hmm.
1985, which is probably before when you were born, Sophie.
Hmm.
And those years are the ones you can think back and see whether they were good years for you or bad years for you. I have very happy memories from 1985, 1997, 2009, even though I'm only like 29 myself. But those years were very, very good for me. So
2008, 2009 is really good. I mean but it was followed by recession by Year of the Tiger, I think.
well, the recession officially started in 2008, right, because of the crash of Lehman Brothers during that year. And but if the rat and the ox at that time was good for you, then it would have
Mm-hmm.
been a good year. But regardless, I mean, COVID and Corona have changed everybody's lives, and
Mm-hmm.
so if the rat and the ox were actually good years for you, then you are still going to be okay during this time. But of course, it's always based on the individual.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, for those who's actually born in the year of the ox, can they expect like an abundant year, or should
Well, there's
they
also
watch
another
out?
there's also another very sort of like general belief, which is not necessarily true, that the
Mm-hmm.
Chinese believe that if you're born in the year of the ox, this is the year of the Grand Duke for you, Fan Tai Sui, as they
Mm-hmm.
say in Cantonese. And then there are a lot of general beliefs which people are saying that you need to pray at the temple and all that sort of thing. But as I said, the same with the people born the year of the sheep. For people born the year of the ox, think back. Think back to 1997, think back to 2009. How were those years for you? If they were really bad, then yeah, it's not going to looking very good again. But if they were really good, then it's not something to worry about, because we also
Mm-hmm.
need to your day, your hour, and your month of birth.
Because according to Chinese astrology, actually, if it's your year this year, they said it's not auspicious for you. So is it
Yeah,
true?
but no, it's not necessarily true. It really depends on the individual. It's like saying that people who are born in the year of the ox cannot marry people born in the year of the sheep, and that's not necessarily true. I had a client who's born the year of the rat, and her husband born the year of the horse, and she first came to see me all those years ago, and we're still in touch, and they're still married after more than, oh my God, the daughter is about 35 this year. They've been married for maybe even close to 40 years.
So it actually depends on, two people already. That
Yeah, it
has nothing
depends
to do
on
with
your
their.
individual parts of the chart and to
Mhm.
give a more accurate picture.
Okay.
Mhm.
So is it also safe to get married this year or to have a child?
I think that's up to the individual. I believe there are a lot of lockdown babies, right? Because if the couple sits down at home, what else are you gonna do
Yeah, they're
when
going to
they're
be born
lockdown?
this year.
Yeah, they'll be born with you, I suppose. What else are they going to do in lockdown? You couldn't go out and watch a movie, could you? So yeah, cinemas
All
and
right.
pictures, many
Okay.
people.
So,
Yeah.
what about your book? The
Oh
book
wow,
that
thank
you,
you. This is now to promote myself, huh? So
yes.
this is the book that I wrote during lockdown last year. It's a translation of a Chinese book. So it was written in Mandarin and was published in 1995. It's now out of print. It was written by a feng shui master, and basically it's looking at the 60 personalities of the day. So for example, let's put my money where my mouth is. Sophia, oh, you have to tell me your birthday, but then you don't really want to share that information with
Oh, everyone knows about it, but I don't want to say the year. But I'm year of the goat.
okay,
It's
I
December
know that. Okay,
31.
December 31. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
number 31, year of the goat. Okay, let me check for you. So, year of the goat. 1991, right? Mm-hmm.
No, 19.
No, no, no,
Oh my God, that was that young.
don't say it too loud. It's 1991, isn't it? Okay, so you're born on the water monkey day. So let me read this out to you. Those who are born on this day are ambitious, from this book, yeah? Ambitious and proactive. As they know their strengths and weaknesses, they rarely make errors. They can start their own business and enterprise. In favorable periods, they achieve their goals and have opportunities to further their skills. They are silent, strong, open-minded, and calm. Known for their generosity and tolerance, they can enjoy considerable success. And here's the negative bits. In negative periods, they know when to retreat to avoid conflict. As long as they remain calm, they will not suffer any misfortune. They are still able to solve problems and heal themselves from illnesses. If they lose their objectivity and balance, there will be hardship and suffering. They will find it challenging to achieve their aims, lacking the strength and energy to do so. It will be challenging to find people whom they can depend on. As they cannot live life the way they desire, there is the potential to withdraw from others. They can wander through life. So famous people who are born on this type of day, the water monkey day, would be Emma Bunton, Benedict Cumberbatch, Bob Dylan, Fergie the singer, uh, Leona Lewis, another singer, Aaron Neville, another singer, Robert Redford, Tupac was born on a day like this, the surfer Kelly Slater, and the actress Hilary Swank. So there you go. So that's was that an accurate description of your personality? It's called Understanding the 60 Personalities.
Oh my God, I really want to get that.
Oh,
Okay, and
you
what
can get it
what about your
online.
other book?
Oh yeah, and of course I also my first book from Feng Shui was published 11 years ago in 2010, and last year
Mm-hmm.
during lockdown I added more new material and I updated it for 2020. So this book is called Practical Feng Shui Tips for 2020
Okay.
and beyond. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, people like this book because it's very simple. It's written for the South China Morning Post. It's all laid out very clearly. It was
Mm-hmm.
written for the South China Morning Post, and that was the main English newspaper in Hong Kong. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote for them for a period of 6.5 years, from 2005 to 2011. So I've repackaged and sort of updated the columns now, make it more relevant. And there are
Mm.
288 columns in there. And the columns are around 250 words each.
Okay. So
So
where
some
can
of the
they find?
topics, so some of the topics that we cover, for example, some of the chapters would be like, feng shui theory, that's one. And then the bedroom, children and pregnancy, colors, numbers, and water, date selection, festivals, decorations and symbols, doors and windows, exteriors, feng shui calculations, internal shapes and structures, mirrors, office and work, other rooms, spiritual matters, Chinese astrology, and Chinese names. So 17 chapters
Mm.
here. And both books are currently available on Amazon. If you're living in the US, you're very lucky because Amazon is shipping within the US for sure. But for example, to the
Okay.
Philippines, they're not really shipping, and they're not really shipping
Mm.
here to the UAE either. But for people living in the US or in
Mm.
UK,
Mm.
Germany, France, Italy, you'll be able to purchase it through your local Amazon.
Okay. Okay. So, can they also buy that from your website, or is it only in Amazon?
They can look at it through my website, but of course it will direct you to Amazon. My
Mm-hmm.
website, as you said, was jinpeh.com, jinpeh.com. Yeah. So,
All
so,
right.
but it will direct you to Amazon, and they are in charge of shipping now. So they are the people who are doing it. No,
Okay.
unfortunately, they're not available as electronic copies because
Oh,
I cannot, the publisher is not able to guarantee delivery to all types of devices. And
all right.
so it's probably better to just keep it as a traditional copy.
As a hard copy. All right. Okay.
Exactly.
So, last words and last, like just reminder for everyone about the for this year of the ox. Anything that they should avoid or they should, avail.
Well, it really depends on the individual, but of course, we're living in the social distancing times now, and
Mm,
we're living in difficult times right now. So, um, think back. I think the best hint for a person who's listening, think back to 2009. What did you do that year that was good, and what did you do that year that was bad? And if you could have 2009 back, what would you have done differently? So, for example, in 2009, personally, I had a falling out with a friend, which
mm-hmm,
looking back, we're still not friends. But looking back, maybe I shouldn't even have been friends with that person in the first place. So I could have handled the falling out a little bit better. So that's on a personal level. 2009, I also had the opportunity to meet many new friends, and many of whom I'm still in touch with. So then I remember that, so for myself, 2009 was a good year for connections.
mm-hmm,
What else did I do in 2009, which I would like to repeat? It was a good year for work for myself, and I will definitely focus more and work harder and work smarter as well. So it was a
mm-hmm.
very, but that was the year I found my astrology teacher. So for me, it was also the year of possibilities. So it was a very good year looking for me. So for example, so the advice for the person who's listening in is that go back to 2009. What can you have done differently, and what can you do better? And that's the best advice to give to people.
Okay. No, okay, just one last thing because I remember the 2008 and 2009 for me was really good, in terms of, my accomplishments and everything in my other work in my real profession, but the year of the rat last year was really horrible, especially with the COVID thing. But this year, it seems like everyone is very hopeful for a like bright brand new year.
Okay, now we talk feng shui again because the negative energy to do with what's happening with COVID is metal. So it's not saying that
Mm,
every metal year will have COVID. So it was a metal rat year last year. So for people who didn't like metal, it was very difficult. And this year is still the metal ox year. So
mm,
within the feng shui industry, well, people of us who are inside the industry, the talk is that there will still be issues related to it. But of course, last year was yang metal year, and this year is a yin metal year. So it will not be as much, but it will still be there. So for
mm,
metal to be controlled, it needs fire. And in 2022, it is the water tiger year. So, and the tiger has fire within it. So, realistically speaking, I would say that perhaps things will become better for the whole planet in the tiger year 2022. But of course, some of my friends are also saying that this year of vaccinations, which is very true. So I'm very fortunate in that I already had both my doses because I'm lucky enough to be living in the UAE where they have made a vaccination available, and they were actually the first country in the world
mm.
to actually approve a vaccine. So they were the pioneers in this field. So yes, definitely it's a year of vaccination for all of us. and also to see how we can get out of this pandemic situation.
All right. So, okay. So that's really very good news for everyone because everyone's looking for, like hoping it will be a very good year this year. Okay. And
Yes, I think yeah, we all have to be hopeful. We all have days where it's just not looking good, and you just want to change your life. But we all have up days and down days. So let's hope that But I think at the end of the day, it's it's it will not be as severe as the Yang metal year. That much I can say.
health wise.
Yes, of course. But of course, we still have to do the human element, which is, staying safe and keeping your social distance and making sure that you don't go to a place which is too crowded, etc., etc.
All right.
I've been
So,
avoiding crowded places myself. Yes.
all right. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Jin. And
Yes.
then thank you for participating and thank you for sharing us your insights about the year of the ox for this year. All right. And hopefully we can have you again. All right.
Yes.
As our guest in our channel.
Thank you for having me, and it's been my pleasure.
All right. Let me
Okay.
see.